In the last lecture, we have created new function print welcome, and I explained you how you can define the parameters and also the return type of the function. In this lecture, I will introduce you some new types. So let's start with the deletion of the print welcome. We don't really need it. We'll introduce new functions later. And also we don't need a message. So as you're already familiar with our first type, because we created string, the first type is here a string, but about the string and the other string type, I would like to talk later, okay? Because that's much more complex, as I'll be covering in this lecture. Okay, so also let's remove the message about the strings later. For now, I would like to just introduce you Boolean and some number types. Okay, so what's a Boolean type? Boolean type can hold only two values, true or false. Okay, it's usually used in the conditional statements we will explain later. Okay, for example, some Boolean is it fun? For example, is it fun? And you can assign here true or false, and it's automatically inferred as the Boolean. So when you will click here, hover here, you can see it's a bool. Okay, you can write here also bool by default. Okay, so is it fun is a Boolean. Okay, so you can also write it explicitly, but you don't really need, because when you see false or true, of course it's Boolean. Okay, now about the number type. So what numbers you can use? When I write a variable, let's say number. We can call it as we want, but let's call it number. Let's assign here 10. By the default, when you're assigning a number like this, it will be type of i32. What does it mean when it's i32? Okay, let here comments like this, so double slashes, and the comments here. At e32 is a signed integer of 32 bits. Okay, so this i32 can be represented by 32 of 1 and zeros, and that's a really big value. Okay, let's explain it on some smaller values. Okay, and the signed integer, by the way, I will write here more comments for you here, so you are familiar with this. Okay, so when it's assigned, this means it can hold the positive and also negative values. Okay, signed can hold positive and negative values. Okay, so it can be 10, can be minus 10, it can be also bigger value. Okay, let's say when we write here explicitly type, let's say num2, or just write here a small number, because we don't have only 32 bits numbers, we can go as a smaller number as to 8 bits, so to 1 byte. So I can write here a small number will be type of let's say u8. All right, let's start with the u's now. So u8, and let's write here some number. Let's say again 10. Okay, so what's a u? What marks a u here? Okay, I'll copy this comment here, and let's write here. So u8. This is an unsigned integer of 8 bits. What unsigned means, it can hold only the plus values. It cannot hold negative values, so only positive ones. When I write here minus 10, you will see here error. Okay, you can apply unary operator minus to type u8, because it can hold only the plus values. Okay, so when you want to keep small values, you will usually use u8. Okay, and how many values can hold actually 8 bits? So when you want to compute it, there's a computation for it. It's a very simple one. So when you have working with a 2.8 of the u8 type, that's a 2 on the power of 8 minus 1. Okay, that's the maximum value we can hold with a u8 type. Okay, similarly, if you would have, for example, I write it here, if you would have a u32 type, that's the 2 at the power of 32 minus 1. So that's a much bigger value. And these two types, you have for example, u8, u32, u64, u16, u128. Okay, so how many values 2 on the power of 8 minus 1 can hold? Okay, so let's calculate it. So let's write here calculator 2 on the power of 8 minus 1 equal 255. Okay, so that's the maximum value we can hold here. This equals 255. So I can hold here to 55, you can see here, but whenever here to 56, I cannot hold this value of this variable because U8 can hold only from the 0 to 255. Okay, if I would write here 256 and I would use here U16, I would be able to hold it. Okay, so 255 is the maximum value. Let's continue with more types. Let's explain now I type, okay? So signed. Let's write here small number 2, okay, and this will be I. Okay, signed types can hold smaller values, but can also hold negative and a positive value, so that's a benefit. So here I can hold the values from 2 on the power of 7 until 2 on the power of 7 minus 1, and it should be minus. Okay, so how many values I can hold here? Okay, so I can hold here, we can calculate it again. So 2 on the power of 7 is 128. So I can hold here minus 128 until 128 minus 1 is 127. Okay, so I can hold here with the signed types, I can hold negative values and the positive values, but they are smaller. So I can go here minus 128, when I go 29, then out. You can go here 128, 27, and so on. And I can go here until 127. I cannot go higher. I cannot go 8, 9, and so on. So that's the value I can hold with a signed type. Okay, just for you to know. And similarly, you can compute the same values for I16, I32. The same formula is applied, but of course on the power of the type. Okay, actually here is a number of bits in the type minus 1. That's a power. Okay, that's how you can compute it. Okay, so that's 127 is the maximum we can use here. Okay, what other types here? So you can now you see signed types, also unsigned types. Let's specify architecture related types. Okay, I'll write here sys number. And I'll specify here I size. So this is again signed integer. Okay, let's write here minus 10. And sys number 2, it will be U size. Okay, with the U types, you know that you can hold only positive values because that's unsigned. With the sign, you can hold also negative values. So what's this I size and the U size? This actually depends on your operating system. So if you have a 32-bit operating system, this will hold 32 bits. If you have 64-bit, this will hold 64. Okay, so if your architecture, your system is 32-bit, then U size will hold, this would be as a U32. Okay? But if you are when you are on the 64, this would be something as a U64. Okay, so this is a system-related type. Okay, operating system-related type. All right, guys. So that's gonna be it from this. So just some simple primitive types: signed integers, unsigned integer, and one boolean. In the next lecture, we'll continue with more types. Okay, guys. So I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.